Okay.
Okay. So as we were saying before, Andrew Shrout, very good guy. Chris VanMeter, very good guy. I'm really hoping, honestly, what we end up having happen here is just 2 or 3 really good games of Magic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's always what we want to see. We want to see, people playing their best, cool decks, and we certainly have some top-notch decks and some top-notch players here.
Yeah, absolutely. And now the thing about really good Magic, there is really entertaining Magic, which sometimes involves perhaps a mistake here or there that's really interesting in terms of what actually comes out of it. Or there can be really good Magic where you're wowed by a play.
Absolutely.
Well,
we're talking about strong players. I'm pretty sure I've seen Alex Gonzalez's name before.
I definitely have, but I can't remember.
Let's take a look if we can find what his previous accomplishments are.
Absolutely. Give me 1 second and I'll pull that up.
All right.
Well, I will attempt to pull that up.
All right, so... there are definitely lots of names, and I actually think I have seen him before. He looks familiar. I think I've seen him on the Star City Games
looks familiar
live stream before. So
okay, so I'm gonna look for the last 8 years, and with our deck database,
8 years. That's a lot of decks.
Okay, so what we have before is Alex Gonzalez. He has won the Kentucky Standard Open before.
Okay,
so
he won.
He has won a Open, and besides that, he's gotten second place with Bug at Kansas City, and that was just a little bit more than a month ago. And then 8th place, that's today. He's gotten 8th place
so far.
Yeah.
Well, actually, he's
fourth.
At worst,
he's third,
so
fourth now at worst. As well as being the Missouri runner-up. So he is a local player, the runner-up for the Missouri State Championships for 2010.
So yeah, he is certainly a player who has his share of accomplishments. And what were his previous decks? He played Cobblade. Okay.
Cobblade, and he's Team America.
Gotcha. All right. So I was not mistaken in thinking that I had seen him on the Under the Lights before playing Team America. So.
And his second place finish was actually not very long ago. It looks
let's see how similar these decks are.
He apparently is playing about nearly the same cards. He has 1 less Unearth, and let's see. I think he's got 1 more land.
Okay.
I think that's the switch that we see here. That looks... Actually, 1 less Unearth, 1 more Ghastly Demise is the difference between his deck previously and the deck now.
That's some minor tuning going on.
Well, I think you can't ever stay still in Legacy. You have to shift things around.
It's definitely... one of the cool things about Legacy, to compete at the highest levels, is the fact that you can gain a bit of edge here, a bit of edge there, by tweaking your numbers a bit. It is also a format where people can have a deck that they love that they can play all the time.
Absolutely.
I mean, seeing Alex Gonzalez here playing the same deck he played previously, you see a lot of people coming to Legacy tournaments who they're Legacy players. They're players who they love Legacy and they love the fact that they get to play their favorite cards.
Absolutely.
And they'll come to the tournament, and some of them, they may not have the best deck. They may not have a deck that's incredibly well tuned, but they have a deck that they love to play, and they get to play it. And that's one of the great things about Legacy.
Absolutely. Like I was saying before, I think that one of the things that Legacy is incredibly excellent at testing is who is better at playing the matchup.
Yeah, that's certainly true.
And how do you get better at playing the matchup? You can get better at playing the matchup by having a slightly better deck that's slightly tweaked and tuned for the happenstances of the metagame, or you can be better at the matchup simply by knowing your deck so well that you could probably recite the names of all of your cards backwards while giving it to somebody to write down.
Which can be pretty difficult in Legacy because a lot of them have one of this, one of this, one of this, one of this.
Exactly. I think that if you are somebody that's ever getting serious about tournament play, once you have gotten to a point where the deck that you're playing, you can write down from memory, that's the baseline. I think you should really know your deck if you want to be playing a deck that you've prepared for.
Well, this is something that's very crucial. In particular, there's lots of situations that can come up in Legacy, for instance. I was actually watching AJ Stalker playing a match earlier, and AJ was playing a very, very long game against an opponent who had Crucible of Worlds and Wasteland.
Yeah.
And AJ's getting Wastelanded repeatedly, and at one point, AJ uses Life from the Loam to bring back 3 fetch lands, and then he uses one of the fetch lands, goes through his deck, realizes that he only has 1 land he can actually fetch left, And this is the sort of thing that can have a huge impact on the outcome of those games. AJ was he had another land in his hand, so it didn't totally cripple him. But that's the sort of thing that if that came up in a situation where it was crucial, that it can mean the difference between winning and losing a game.
Absolutely.
And paying attention to that sort of thing is in a format where you often have the ability to access huge amounts of your deck, whether it's from brainstorm, whether it's from dredging through your deck, whatever. Those single cards and being aware of what you have access to is a huge deal.
I mean, if we think about the way that singletons work in some formats, there's maybe an article I wrote, I'm thinking about 7 years ago, about singletons in a particular archetype. And in that archetype, which was not as search heavy as is possible in Legacy now, you could on average find, and I did this like the brute force method, you could on average find any card in your deck by turn 5.
Wow.
Now, that's actually...
What was going on there?
Now, some of the decks in Legacy, actually, they already have that ability. And by any card, I mean this. When you name your card, and then take your opening hand of 7, and then look.
Okay.
Yeah. So, with that in mind, let's say that you've got a 1-of in your deck. It's probably a little bit faster than that for some of the decks that have a lot of search, like Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah.
Like, let's say that I shuffle up a deck, take one card out of it, and put a little slip of paper in the sleeve, and then hand it to you. I bet you in Chris's deck, Chris VanMeter's deck, look at all the search he's got here. He's got 4 Stoneforge Mystic, he's got 4 Brainstorm, he's got 8 fetch lands.
Jaces.
He's got 3 Jaces, and he's got 2 Vendilion Clicks, which he can use to go 1 card deeper if he wants to. I would be unsurprised if he would be very able to get to a card by a relatively fast turn. Yeah,
I mean, it's certainly true. Legacy is a format with, in particular, decks that have Brainstorm and Ponder. I mean, you look at the consistency of combo decks, like the Reanimator decks that we see. They have, they no longer have access to cards like Mystical Tutor, but they do have Brainstorm and Ponder. And we saw, even in Modern, we saw that Ponder and Preordain were enough fuel, enough sort of dig to make those combo decks so incredibly consistent that they were deemed to be a problem. And we have Brainstorm, we have Ponder here, and you can find the specific reanimation target you need to discard to Careful Study sometimes with incredible incredible frequency.
Here we go. We've got the match about to start.
Right, we are back. Thank you for all of you who've been patient with the problems we've had, but we are back here for the semifinals. We have Andrew Shrout on the left of your screen playing Blue-Red Delver Burn, a very cool deck that has sort of broken out here. And Chris VanMeter on the right of your screen, who's playing a deck that he has dubbed Wizard Blade. So
we'll have to see who wins the coin flip. It looks like it might have been Chris.
Yep.
Land
comes
go.
Down for Chris.
And to Andrew, land go, it looks like.
He would really prefer to have a Delver in this matchup.
Maybe he's doing more than that.
No, he's fetching. And Chris with a basic Plains.
Remember, Chris does have 4 Swords to Plowshares in his main of his deck.
Yes.
We might be getting to that point, even though the match is well across a large room. Brian Kibler and I both have voices that sometimes tend to carry. So if our voices start to drop down, it's because we're not wanting to give away the information like, hey, he's got a Force of Will in hand. So
I'm going to have to really restrain myself because I am typically, rather enthusiastic when things I enjoy happen. I don't know if anyone was listening when we were covering the standard portion and the full 20 actually occurred. I may have woken up someone, in 3 towns over with my...
Or at least woken up Edgar Flores, who was napping nearby.
I don't know if he was napping by that point in the tournament, but he was napping at one point today.
We see Delver on turn
2 Delver.
This leaves him with Blue Man open so that he can have access to Spell Snare.
But it is going to resolve and Swords to Plowshares and gets rid of it quickly.
I don't think that Andrew cares so much. I'm pretty willing to bet that Andrew has a Spell Snare in hand.
Yeah. I mean, Andrew's deck, while it does have a lot of burn spells, it is pretty reliant on getting in a significant amount of creature damage. If he isn't able to get in hits with Delver and Goblin Guy, particularly if Chris, as he is now, has a mana base primarily made up of basic land, he's going to have to do a lot of work to get 20 in.
Absolutely. How much mana does Chris actually need to work with? It looks like he only...
Vendilion Click comes down.
It looks like he only needs 4 mana to cast basically everything in his deck, and he can do that all off of basics if he's very disciplined.
Batterskull. So Andrew's hand, we're going to look at it here. It is Lightning Bolt, Fire Blast, Force of Will, and I can't quite make out those last 2 cards.
I can't either. They are blue. There we go, Spell Snare. And I think it's 2 Spell Snare.
Maybe it's Spell Snare. Okay. Now, what do you take here, if anything?
I might want. I mean, Spell Snare is the card that stops my Stoneforge Mystic. Spell Snare is the card that stops my Snapcaster. Even though he has redundancy, I might just get rid of one just to have one less of those around.
It looks like Chris's hand has.
Why are we moving our heads over to the side?
Well,
we've got a flat screen.
I don't know
here.
why.
We can't see.
It is actually kind of funny. I'm sitting here tilting my head to the side of our TV as if I'm somehow going to get a better view of what's actually happening. So Lightning Bolt goes to the bottom. Okay, he's trying to protect that Vendilion click, perhaps.
There we go.
That's not unreasonable.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a Fire Blast to kill it unless Andrew draws another burn spell.
Chris drew Wasteland.
Yikers.
That is pretty dangerous, given that Andrew has only that volcanic island currently. I actually think I would have considered taking nothing with Vendilion Click.
Interesting.
He knows that his opponent has only those 2 land, and while Lightning Bolt can kill his Vendilion Click, so can an activation of that Grim Lavamancer. Granted, there's 2 copies of Spell Snare, and
he says go.
Yeah. So I don't think Chris had that Wasteland in his hand. I think he drew it. If he had that Wasteland in his hand, I 100% don't take a card. I Wasteland his Volcanic Island, and I let my Vendilion Click do the work. I can understand taking the Lightning Bolt there with the desire to just ride your Vendilion Click, but I think it's very justifiable to just take no card.
The power of merely peeking and letting it all stay is
information. As we've been saying, a great deal over the course of this weekend is very, very powerful.
Tropical Island, your and my favorite dual land, or dual land with an island, I should say. Ponder.
So Ponder. That will perhaps.
I wouldn't mind counterspelling this.
I don't think Chris has that option. He looks like he has a couple of Spell Snares in his hand. He has a Snapcaster Mage.
If he has Counterspell, what do you see his hand is Snapcaster?
I believe it's Jace, Snapcaster, Counterspell, or not Counterspell. Sorry, Spell Snare.
There we go.
Ooh, is this actual Counterspell? It is. No.
Snapcaster in response.
Okay.
Well, while
he's going
to
Swords
for the Grim Lavamancer.
Yes. All right, he's protecting his attempting to protect his pressure. So Force of Will on Snapcaster Mage, and it resolves.
One thing we can expect: Andrew is going to likely board out some of these forces for this matchup.
Perhaps I do think that the power of cards like Jace the Mind Sculptor and Elspeth may put him in a position where he needs to be able to have cards that answer them.
He's got Pyroblast.
Well, Elspeth's a white card.
Oh, not for Elspeth. He can't answer Elspeth that way.
Elspeth is the truth.
Elspeth is the truth. Good Lord. I mean, I could easily see a Price or a Lightning Bolt. Sorry, not a Lightning Bolt. A Price answering an Elspeth if he needs to do that.
It's possible. I mean, though, as we've seen in this game, Chris is very capable of relying on primarily basic lands for his mana base. He currently has only a single non-basic, and it's a tropical island.
He lets it ride. Draws a card. Ponder goes to the yard.
All right, he has
Here's
a mountain.
Grim Lavamancer has a lot of food.
Lavamancer is going to...
Chain Lightning, Force of Will, Spell Snare, Spell Snare.
Lavamancer eats Vendilion Click.
Fire Blast, and there it is. Dead click. Tapped out, so this does give Chris VanMeter, if he has the Stoneforge Mystic, the opportunity to get one down.
It does, although that Grim Lavamancer will be able to kill Stoneforge Mystic immediately.
He's getting close to having the mana to just cast the Battle Skull if it gets to his hand.
It's true.
Actually, he has the mana now. There's the 5th mana in his hand.
He has a Jace here. He knows. Jace. Well, he knows his opponent has another Force of Will.
And also, he knows his opponent has a Chain Lightning. Oh, he doesn't know that.
No, he doesn't know.
Blast,
He doesn't know the Chain Lightning, and my bad. His opponent also has. If his opponent Fire Blast Jace, I think he's perfectly happy with that.
That's fair. 3 Moon Ponder, shuffle, shuffle, shuffle.
So that's more fuel for the Grim Lavamancer.
Andrew with a smile on his face. He doesn't look happy about his position, but Chris, nice guy, smile and shrug. He's ready to keep going.
So shuffles up. So it looks like Andrew's hand is...
It's going to be... That's Price of Progress, Chain Lightning, Fire Blast, Spell Snare, Force of Will, a card I can't see.
So the players do know each other's lists, and that means a lot because Chris, for instance, knows that Andrew doesn't have anything like Spell Pierce in his deck. He knows that the only way that Andrew has to actually answer Jace the Mind Sculptor,
Wow.
at least when he plays it, is Force of Will.
So Andrew goes to the dome. He has decided
Face.
apparently that it's time to start trying to chop away.
I think if I were Chris, I would have. I think I may have cast Jace the Mind Sculptor last turn. He needs to be able to use his mana, and if he's just passing with his mana, with his lands up, he's letting that Grim Lavamancer just continue to tick his life total down. He would have gotten a Force of Will, which he has reason to believe is his opponent's only Force of Will.
Where's the Jace?
See, he's casting it this turn. He could have just cast the same spell last turn. So it is getting Force of Will as expected.
Spell
with
Snare is tossed.
And but now Chris, he's allowed Andrew to tap out on this turn, and he can't punish him by casting a Stoneforge Mystic, and he still has the Spell Snare up for next turn.
Andrew draws.
So,
Some mysterious card that is currently hidden.
so looks like some more
Looks like a Scalding Tarn.
Scalding Tarn. All right. So
More food for the fire.
and I think is Andrew at the point where no, he only has 5 cards in his yard, 6 virtually with that Scalding Tarn. Yeah, he is. He's going the Lavamancer plan.
6, 7, 8, 9 because of the Fire Blast.
Yep, yeah. So he is, and here, Stoneforge Mystic, which is going to get Spell Snared.
10.
And yep, and I mean this is if Chris was going to cast Jace, why didn't he cast at the turn where he just had his opponent was tapped out? Similarly, exact same situation. He just wasted a turn of mana.
And
So-
we see a Grim. He's going to try to make sure he keeps his graveyard diverse enough for possible Snapcasters.
Yep. So Lavamancer takes Chris to 13 life.
The tension between Snapcaster and Grim Lavamancer is amusing.
It's definitely very interesting. Determining what Goblin
Goblin
Guide
Guide.
comes into play tapped and attacking apparently.
Swords.
Ooh, Swords to
I
Plowshares.
think we're going to see 2 damage for Chris. Chris is in real trouble right now.
Yeah,
actually.
he's gotten to the point where he has multiple things that he needs to deal with very quickly, and his life total is swiftly diminishing. He also knows that it's even more dangerous than it looks like right now. His opponent has the Fire Blast waiting in his hand. We know that his opponent has, I believe, he's cast the Chain Lightning since we saw.
He's got Price of Progress and
Price
Fire
of Progress Price of Progress only represents 2 damage currently.
Incorrect, 3 damage. Because in order to do
it's
it,
true.
he's got to
I
sack
was going to
the
say
land.
he would have to get rid of his fetch land. So
But I believe there are 2 fetch lands in play. One slightly above
it is true. And
so that's actually 4 damage that it represents.
yeah,
Maybe
so
more. Can we see the top of those lands? I can't quite see those.
pretty sure, yeah,
That's
it's
2
fetch.
fetch.
So-
Yeah, that represents 4 damage or more if Chris... Actually, how many planes does Chris have?
He has 1 plane.
1 planes. Okay, that still is a concert shot for an island, though. That would represent all of Chris's basic lands should that happen. 11 up.
No, it's actually 9 for Chris.
Oh, 9, okay.
Which is going to be 7.
And
although-
that is actually a
is that gonna
useless
get-
fetch land.
Yeah, that fetch land does not fetch any more lands. Well, any more basic
More basic lands. To be fair, Chris VanMeter also has 4 Spell Snares in his deck, so Price of Progress is not a foregone conclusion that it'll resolve.
He does have 1 in his hand as well. Chris's draw this game has been
Swords.
actually pretty reasonable. Is the thing he hasn't drawn Brainstorm to in order to maximize his use of a lot of these excess lands.
Brainstorm from Andrew Shrout in response to the Swords to Plowshares on the Goblin.
Ooh,
Looks like we see Mountain, Chain Lightning, Pale Rice Progress, and
Daze.
yeah. Now the
Daze is getting out of here. I would believe.
and there's a volcanic island there as well. What's up? And goodbye, Goblin Guide, correctly exiled.
So Andrew Shrout goes to 13 life, though his life total is not the most important thing going on.
AJ Soccer, looking on from the sideline, says that was a really bad brainstorm.
Ooh. Wait, did Chris suddenly go to 13 life? I'm confused. Well, we just... Chris's life
I think what might have happened is
13.
11 might have been prematurely moved to 9, but it might have actually been 13. Well, once
little
we have
confused here,
a confirmation of the life totals, we will make sure that we get that updated there.
I'm very confused by Chris's line of play. He has what is his plan? He has Elspeth in his hand. He's not casting it. He has Jace in his hand. He didn't cast it. He's just slowly dying to Grim Lavamancer.
Take 2.
And now his life seems to be 9.
We will let you know as soon as we have.
Once we find out what the life totals actually are.
Untap with Andrew. I believe that was a Fire Blast on top.
So yeah, he has a Chain Lightning in his hand. I believe a Chain Lightning, Fire Blast, Price of Progress. All right, so Chris is in fact now at 9 life.
Price during the main phase draws the Spell Snare out.
Spell snared.
That gets countered.
And
he's thinking about this Chain Lightning. I don't think there's anything wrong with casting it.
I would certainly cast it.
It's a sorcery.
Chain Lightning you.
He's thinking about it. He's thinking of it. Click, click, click. Yep, do it. Take it. Go to.
And
Chris just is like, I am down. Well, the thing is, right? He knows the Fire Blast is in his opponent's hand,
yeah.
and then the Grim Lavamancer will finish.
At bare minimum, even if he did have a card like Force of Will, he was dead. So I think that game went south for Chris when he chose not to cast Jace the Mind Sculptor when he had 5 mana. He allowed his opponent to just develop his board and dig through his deck for multiple turns. And the following turn, he just decided, okay, well, now I'll cast Jace.
And nothing had changed that was actually better for Chris.
And the way that the game played out, if he had cast Jace that turn, it got Force of Will. He could play the Stoneforge Mystic the following turn when his opponent was tapped out. If his opponent did choose to tap out that turn, it's possible that his opponent would have left mana up. But if his opponent did tap out, he would have been able to play that Stoneforge Mystic. And then even if that Stoneforge died, that would have meant less damage for Chris, and he could have played the Batterskull.
So, we have a wonderful question for all of you out there. We just saw Andrew Shrout win this round, but at home you also can win something. Every round we give away some free premium from Star City Games Premium. I'm Adrian Sullivan here with Brian Kibler.
Hello.
Welcome to the Star City Games Live Open Series here in St. Louis. We're in the top 4. The giveaway that we're going to be having, if you want to be a part of it, you want to answer on Twitter to the hashtag SCG Premium for our trivia question. You can see right there.
There you go.
Oh, some over there. The hashtag SCG Premium. The answer to this question. What Innistrad-themed number is the number of islands played in the Merfolk deck? We talked about it earlier. It's the number that Alex Bertoncini has used in his Merfolk deck for quite a long time, and you see this number in Innistrad quite a bit as well. What number of islands is in the top 8 Merfolk list? And put your answers to hashtag SCG Premium. Back to the match at hand before. So we're looking at game 2 for Chris VanMeter. And what is he going to do to try to come back on this? Does he have any? Umezawa's Jite is reasonable.
Jite is pretty good. Path to Exile, I think, is pretty substantial. Path, as we saw that game, and as we were saying going into that game, while Andrew's deck is a burn deck, it's a burn deck that needs to do a substantial amount of damage to creatures. He has the Goblin Guide, the Grim Lavamancer, both did a lot of damage that game. Grim Lavamancer did something like 10 damage with a bunch of activations. So, and I think that Chris boarding in Path to Exile to go along with his Swords to Plowshares will give him a lot of cheap answers to those low-cost creatures.
I think if Chris knows or has listened to Andrew talk, I think Chris is going to have to bring in Croson Grip, because Andrew's plan that he talked about, with me at least, versus, and this is before he knew what the top 8 looked like, against decks like that had Batterskull and Umezawa's Jite, is Sulfuric Vortex.
Yeah, so if I were Chris, I think I would be boarding out Force of Will. Force of Will does not match up well against many of the cards in Andrew's deck, and particularly poorly against the cards in his sideboard. Yeah. I don't want to be Force of Will and my opponent has Pyroblast. Andrew
said that he boarded out Force of Will in this kind of matchup.
I think that's correct on his part as well, which I think means that Chris VanMeter wants Elspeth to come in. I think that he needs to be able to close the game out before Andrew can just assemble a massive amount of burn in his hand.
Wait a second, you think someone should play more Elspeths?
You got me.
Okay.
It's incredibly unusual opinion for me to have, but yeah, I mean, we did say yesterday. You said that the Pernicious Deed deck was going to win. I said an Elspeth deck was going to win. We still have
it's actually
a
true.
Pernicious Deed deck and an Elspeth deck in this tournament.
Oh, go Team America. We'll have to see what happens in the other bracket to see if it's actually possible. For it to be possible, Team America will have to beat Reanimator.
And Chris VanMeter would have to win this.
That's Alex
we
Gonzalez.
could have the showdown.
That's true.
I hope to have the showdown between our predictions. That would be awesome.
Alex Gonzalez and Milton Figueiredo. I think that other match is also still playing. Yeah, I can see them still playing with a small crowd around them over there.
All right, so Chris VanMeter, Andrew Shrout, chatting a little bit about their last game as they shuffle.
So one of the things I'm noticing, Chris VanMeter, he's moving a little bit. He had like kind of a nervous moving of his leg. One thing that people do a lot, and people often, if they've never seen Patrick Chapin play, they're like, oh, Patrick must be really nervous about this play. He's shaking a little bit. That doesn't mean anything for those of you trying to get a tell off of somebody.
Oh, it's...
Very rarely does a shake or a movement like that actually mean something. It usually just means that someone is excited or caffeinated. But a lot of different studies have been done about things like that kind of thing. It's not really a tell. If you want to learn your tells, Caro's Book of Tells, it's about poker, but it mostly can be reapplied to Magic in a lot of ways.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there have been people who comment on the way that I shuffle my cards around in my hand during games. They're like, "Wow, you must be really nervous." I'm like, "No, this is just a totally unconscious habit that I have that I've just developed over many, many years."
If you ever bring someone that doesn't play Magic to a Magic tournament, I've had people tell me that they are mystified by the cricket sound, and what they're actually referring to is the snap, snap, snap of cards all throughout the room. Chris VanMeter opens up with Tundra.
All right, so Tundra faces off against a Volcanic Island and a Goblin Guide that enters play tapped and attacking.
As it does.
Revealing Brainstorm. That's a card Chris VanMeter definitely wanted more of last game.
You'll notice last time...
ooh, is this getting in?
Oh, immediately going to be... Nope.
No.
Last time, Andrew was able to give Chris a single land.
Yeah.
Let's see if he's actually succeeding in being able to do that this time.
So I do see Elspeth in Chris's hand.
Oh, Elspeth. Go, Goblin Guide, go.
So, Chris definitely wishes he had a one cost removal spell for that Goblin Guide. Whether Path to Exile or Swords to Plowshares, he'd be very happy to get that off the board right away.
I can see it. Chris, I believe I saw a Wasteland and another blue source. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to lay a Stoneforge Mystic here.
I think that's totally reasonable. Though Stoneforge Mystic in this position is likely just going to die. If it does stay in play, that's certainly awesome for Chris.
Absolutely.
It does resolve, which isn't unexpected given that we thought that Andrew would board out Force of Will.
And he's putting Andrew to the question, do you have the one-drop removal for my Stoneforge Mystic? You better.
Yep.
Now, Andrew only has, and that's, quote, only 8 of them.
I suppose he could Fire Blast it.
Oh, having cast a Fire Blast or 2 in my day, when you have to do that just feels terrible.
You probably wouldn't Fire Blast that. You might Fire Blast,
Well, other things. Whatever the thing may be.
Brainstorm. So if he has it, he's looking. Maybe he's trying to find... I see a Pyro... I saw a red spell. I think that was Pyroblast, though.
Oh, that's sad.
Someone's chosen a horse in this race.
I chose the Goblin Guide deck? I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, it is totally unbiased of me to be rooting for Elspeth.
You know what? Here's the thing. I have no problem with my bias wearing it on my sleeve because I'm a commentator, not a newscaster.
So Andrew Shrout is in the tank over this Brainstorm. He does not look like a man who has found a way to kill Stoneforge Mystic.
With furrowed brow, he places 2 cards back.
Yep.
And seems like he's going to have to play against a Batterskull, I'm going to guess.
That does not seem unlikely given the look of things. So he did. I believe he had a fetch in his hand, so he may be trying to figure out what he wants to get rid of.
Maybe. I think I see a chain.
Is it?
I think I see a chain lightning.
It may have just been a tank on what he was... what he wanted to get rid of from his hand. Could be that his hand was actually quite good after he...
He's like, what are the good cards I'm going to get rid of? There's so many of them. My preferred Brainstorm in Legacy, just in terms of the amount of times I cast it, is main phase Brainstorm.
Yeah, I do think that people, as you were talking about earlier this weekend, have... Ooh, it is just Lavamancer.
I think we will see a Batterskull.
Oh, no land. We're going to see a Germ coming down.
I mean, Andrew can kill the germ. He can.
It requires a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
And often will require a creature to have run into it in the first place. I mean, if he can kill a germ, he can probably kill a Stoneforge, so... Alright.
Earlier, Andrew talked about his last-minute sideboarding where he took out his Smash to Smithereens.
Ooh.
And
Smash to Smithereens out of Batterskull is gross.
Yeah, those became surgical extractions, which, according to him, he barely touched all day.
Mm-hmm. Surgical extraction is a sort of card that people always think is going to be good, and is often so much worse than they want it to be. Though it certainly is a card that can have a serious impact against Reanimator decks. So, if Andrew Shrout does make it to the finals and faces off against Milton Figueroa, he may be happy he has them.
And here we see the sad state of the game for Andrew.
Also known as the happy state of the game for Chris. So Andrew is trying to figure out what he does against a germ. I mean, it's just a germ.
I know.
How big of a problem can a germ be?
I would ask, let's see, the people that originally populated this country.
Wow. Okay. I'm gonna let that one alone.
There you go.
Let that one alone.
You could also talk about the Black Plague in Europe.
Talk about a lot of things, but I won't. So Andrew brainstorms, and not really sure what he wants to see here.
I think that what's going to happen is he might have to just do the self-sacrificing of his own creatures and hope to draw enough burn to go to the dome through it.
That's pretty ambitious at this point in the game.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not ambitious. I'm just trying to find a path through the wilderness.
I mean, if he does have, for instance, a Fire Blast, let's say, which I see a pair of
Pyro.
He has answers to blue cards, and Chris has white cards.
I've got actually a better thought.
No, he's gonna.
He wants to get a sulfuric vortex into place so that Batterskull doesn't matter very much.
So he's going to Grim Lavamancer, hitting Stoneforge Mystic. Chris says, "I may have a response. I will put Baneslayer Angel into play." It's actually Tim Ayton. Tim Ayton is, in fact, a germ, apparently.
Oh, no, he's not. He was an up-and-comer.
Well, he is, in fact, an up-and-comer. And he is a very dangerous... Oh, he's fire blasting Tim Ayton.
Whoa!
So, Andrew Shrout, with a single fetch land to his name...
You know what he's got, though? He's got
creatures.
Goblin Guide. Oh, let me see what's over there, boss.
All right, well, this is a plan.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, that you do. So Chris VanMeter here, he is going down to 14 life. He doesn't want that. I don't think he wants that Stoneforge Mystic. I don't think Stoneforge does much for him. If I were Chris, I think what you need to find land here. You need to find.
You absolutely
It doesn't appear that he has land in his hand. I think he has a brainstorm, and I think that what I would do, and knowing that Stoneforge Mystic is on top of my deck, I think, yeah,
there you go.
Crack. I think you want to crack brainstorm. I see Elspeth in his hand. AJ Soccer shaking his head violently here. Sometimes you know the time, man.
Yeah, time matters. I've done all kinds of suboptimal plays because I just had to do some time stuff.
Yep.
Here we go. End of the turn, BS.
He does have Snapcaster in his hand to rebuy that brainstorm if need be.
Well, you know what he's doing here is he's trading away the power of brainstorm for time.
Yep. And if he and that's getting pyroblasted.
Oh, Andrew's like, I don't want you doing that. I don't care if it's weaker.
Andrew
it's too much.
He respects the brainstorm.
Chris
untaps, and if he draws a land here, he can land Elspeth. And we see he draws Snapcaster Mage. So I think what Chris wants to do here is Snapcast a brainstorm. That's what I would do.
I think that's 100% accurate.
He
Just get the land
certainly
into
doesn't.
play.
He certainly doesn't want to let Andrew untap, because if Andrew has another Pyroblast, yep, that's going to happen.
There you go.
So
Get the land into play.
Chris,
Find your
Snapcast, Brainstorm.
There you go. And that Snapcaster, it will at least
2
blunt
and
the damage
3.
either
And we
in
see,
one way or the other.
Is there a land?
There it is.
Okay, so he
Next
has
turn.
both a land and a Swords to Plowshare, so he can fetch and get Tundra.
Well, the problem with doing that is
He
it's
does leave
incredibly
he does leave
dangerous.
a lot of non-basics in the board.
That's 8 damage should Andrew draw a
But
Price of Progress.
if he does not do it, then he ends up in a position where Andrew can just
And to be
Lava
fair-
Mancer away that.
To be fair, there's already 6 damage there from the Price of
he's-
Progress.
he's already in a position
He might
where-
as well just do it.
I think he has to go ahead and cast Swords to Plowshares. I would get rid of Grim Lavamancer. Grim Lavamancer represents the biggest threat here.
Actually, I would go the other way. I would get rid
Really?
of. I would get rid of. No, you're right. I'm sorry. I
He
was gonna-
absolutely has
no,
to
no,
get
no.
rid
You're
of Grim
correct. You're
Lavamancer
correct.
because
You're
of Batter
correct.
Skull.
You're correct.
He wants to be able to equip whatever
Yeah,
whatever creature he has
absolutely.
with Batter Skull, so he needs Grim Lavamancer to be out of there.
I was agreeing with you in my head and saying it like, no. He wants the Grim Lavamancer to die, not live.
All right.
Oh wow!
I
don't like that
I disagree
at
with
all.
this completely.
No. Do it right away. We're talking probably a little bit too loud.
Yeah,
even
maybe,
across the
maybe.
room.
So I don't see the reason to give him the Grim Lavamancer activation. So
Zing.
it could be that he's letting him do this, and now he's going to plow the guide. But yeah, I disagree with this pretty strongly.
Guide says Elspeth.
Number 2.
Yeah. So you're right. He boarded it in.
He's gonna want to get rid of that one though. He certainly doesn't need a backup. Wait, did he
He might
leave
have
his
brainstormed it on top.
Did he leave his Elspeth there? He wants that Elspeth.
Oh, that's the. He put the Elspeth away. That might be the.
He
actual.
needs that Elspeth. He has a Spellstutter Sprite in his hand.
Goodbye, Elspeth.
No. What are you doing, my lady? My dear lady. You have abandoned her.
Did you meet Elspeth?
I did.
Excellent.
There's a picture of me with the
I would have
Elspeth cosplayer.
I would have
from,
loved to have met Elspeth. She seemed quite wonderful.
So Swords to Plowshares takes out that Goblin Guide. And
you look none too happy about all that.
I have not been happy with the way Chris VanMeter has played a number of turns in this game. And Delver of Secrets.
Delver. This looks very scary.
I mean, there's a lava. I don't understand why you let your opponent keep Lavamancer when you have Batter Skull. Your whole plan is to equip a creature with Batter Skull and end the game. And now you've allowed your opponent to kill your Snapcaster, which you could just trade with that Goblin Guide. And you have to get rid of that Lavamancer before you can do anything. Before you can actually utilize your Batter Skull, which you worked so hard to get into play.
Snapcaster Swords on the Grim Lavamancer?
I mean, all right. Now you decide it's a threat, but you could have
Right.
done that. You could have had
Last turn again.
Yeah,
It's another one-turn delay on the decision.
Right. I think that it seems like he's just switching plans or something. So no flip for the Delver, which is a very big deal right here. If that Delver flipped, it would be huge.
Land fetch.
Are we gonna see Pyroblast take down that?
I wouldn't have a problem with that.
I don't know if we see it now, or if Chris draws a land, he may Pyro in response to the equip.
Yeah, I think you wait.
Yeah, it's currently not a significant threat.
It is insignificant.
Oh,
Was that a vortex?
Is it?
Is that a vortex?
Vortex. That is a big game.
Dun, dun, dun. I'm going to tell you, I don't think I've ever lost a game where Vortex hit play.
So Chris VanMeter is in serious trouble.
Take 2.
10 life.
Yep, there's the pencil being marking.
And it looks like that's Mutavault. He can equip Batter Skull to that Snapcaster, which is a pretty fast clock, even facing, especially his opponent is under significant pressure. So equip.
Yeah, just do it.
What?
No.
You can't gain life. What are you doing? You're gonna trade with Delver, and then you can't gain life.
When you're at half the life total of another player, you don't want a continuous ticking clock hitting you both. You want to have the more aggressive clock.
Andrew has to block here.
Yeah.
I mean, he really doesn't want that to. I mean, he doesn't have to, per se.
He doesn't have to, but
But
he
he's
wants
gonna
to.
lose. He's gonna lose his guy to Jitte if he doesn't anyway. So he can get that. He can get Snapcaster Mage off the board, which gives Chris no effective equipped target for Batterskull.
I would have been fine with just the Batterskull. You've got a 6/5 Vigilance.
I mean,
swing in.
Batterskull hits you. You're just hitting him with a gigantic creature every turn.
Turn off his clock, and he makes sure that the Delver doesn't flip and kill him.
I mean, yeah,
but only
I don't understand not blocking there at all.
Bad.
that was
he.
Because the land was a mutable, I like that Jit play, but
Ponder.
I am
Andrew might
perplexed.
actually just lose this
Yeah.
because of that play.
I don't. I
thought,
I'm
oh boy,
baffled by what
there we
happened.
go.
Whoa.
Some Bernie burns.
All right. Well,
If you could see AJ's face when the Ponder was there, it actually looked as though someone found the remains of like a loved relative and just, I don't know what I want to say after that. Just bad times with, yeah.
chain you.
Do you have any red?
So Chris goes to 7 life, and during his upkeep, Chris will go to 5 life. He cannot gain life.
One thing to remember, too, is that Andrew, I think, still has a Pyroblast in hand.
No, Andrew has no cards.
Oh, he has no cards?
He is
My bad.
playing empty-handed here. So now,
The clock is
what is
quick.
it? How does this clock work? So that he can attack with Mutavault and
The faster way to do the clock is to put the Batterskull onto the Snapcaster.
You can't. He has Spellstutter Sprite in his hand. He's gonna die to a burn spell if he can't counter with Spellstutter Sprite.
That's fair.
He can't afford to tap 5 mana to use his Batterskull right now. So I think what he has to do, if he activates Mutavault and attacks with both, he pumps, so he does 6 damage, putting Andrew to 10. He passes the turn back. He has the ability to Spellstutter Sprite even a 2-drop, so he can Spellstutter Sprite.
You're correct.
Any sort of burn spell, even a Price of Progress, and I think he actually kills him in his following turn.
You're correct.
So I think Chris is going to win that game because Andrew didn't block.
Yes.
What? Oh, no! What's happening? No! I don't understand. He just put himself dead to a burn spell.
And you'll have to remember.
Oh, and Chris. Oh dear.
Oh no, that's what happened.
He did not realize what Sulfuric Vortex does. Wow. So Legacy is a very complicated format and involves lots of cards you don't see very often, and Sulfuric Vortex is one of those. And
Pretty sure it's on there.
I'm fairly certain that Chain Lightning. So wow, Chris VanMeter.
We knew it was there from the Ponder from before.
Loses that game that if he had known what Sulfuric Vortex did, he almost certainly would have won.
Now, the thing to remember about this, too, I think there are something like, at this point, 13,000 legal cards in Legacy.
Yeah, it is not easy to know what every card does, but one thing that you definitely need to do when you have the opportunity, and especially when you're in a tense moment like this, read the card.
Yeah, RTFC. That's what the sleeves say.
It's very important to know what all of your cards do and what all of your opponent's cards do. Your opponents are often going to play cards that you're not used to playing with or against.